I like to say that veganism is this massive mansion, and it doesn't really matter how you come into it. I came into it through health related challenges, whole food, plant-based eating. I know we were introduced, by a mutual friend, and unfortunately, during the pandemic, as many of us have experienced, I too endured a deep personal loss, and I was feeling like, you know, I was feeling a lot of feelings, and there were just many intense, deep emotions that were surfacing. And I've known you through a different entity that you're a co-founder of, and we'll talk about that, in this conversation. But you introduced me to Kriya Yoga and to breath work, and I can very confidently say at this point in time that I was like, I don't know how's this going to help, and this is not really physical, but this is breath. But it's amazing how you explained it to me. So please, Mallory, explain to our viewers what what happens when we're experiencing stress and
Mhm.
these intense emotions. And as you just mentioned, that you would finish your Bikram hot yoga class, which you were thinking of as a workout, which a lot of us do because there's sweat involved and you're moving your physical body. But how is our energetic body involved?
Mm.
So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to share a bit about how the nervous system works. Because when I started learning about this, it really, everything clicked into place for me. And what I learned is that when we're in a state of stress, our nervous system is in a sympathetic response. So, what that means is we are preparing unconsciously to meet a threat in our environment. We're trying to survive. In a lot of ways, it's a survival reaction to some perceived threat in our environment. And so our body is priming us to either fight, so attack the threat, or flee, run away from the threat, or freeze, which could be shutting down or being frozen in that moment. So these are different ways that our nervous system has evolved over human history to meet environmental threats. The thing is, the threats that we evolved to react to back in early human history were predators in our environment or something like that, where these reactions would actually have been useful. But nowadays, what we find threatening is having an argument with our partner or a disagreement with our boss or having loud sounds in the city that we live in. All of these different stimuli, our nervous system can interpret unconsciously as a threat and kick us into a stress response. And because of how modern society is, most of us are actually in a state of chronic stress all the time where our nervous system is on high alert, hyper vigilant, waiting to respond to threats in the environment. And the thing is, all of these things happen in the body outside of our conscious control. We're not actively thinking, oh, I feel under threat right now. Let me tense my muscles and um, you know, dilate my pupils and release stress hormones. These are all things that our body does on its own for a good reason, because if we need to respond to something in a split second, we want to kick into gear really quickly. However, what that means is that our bodies can be doing all these reactions without us necessarily being aware of it. And what's so powerful about the breath is that it's the one function in the autonomic nervous system that happens outside of our conscious control. That is, we breathe all the time without thinking about it, thankfully. And then also, it's within our conscious control. So we can choose how we breathe. We can choose to slow down our breath, to change our breath patterns. And because the breath is connected in through the vagus nerve to all these other functions in the body, by changing our breath pattern, we also change all these other physiological reactions. So every emotion, every state has an associated breath pattern with it. So when we learn to consciously shift our breath, we're actually also learning to shift what's happening in our body, to shift how our nervous system is responding, which is incredibly empowering to me.